1971, I got an issue of Surfer magazine that had an article on the Hollister Ranch and also an article on Santa Barbara surfing, Rincon and Hammonds. When I saw those photos, and of course at the time I'm an absolute surfing fanatic, so when my friends invited me out to California and said you have a free place to stay in a mansion in Montecito, I think I was in my car in a matter of a week, driving across country in a convertible Corvair, because I had so much gear in it, snowboards, skis, skateboards, surfboards. I had so much junk I couldn't put the top up. So I had to drive across country in the middle of winter with my ski goggles on and ski jacket. And I pull into Santa Barbara. It's about 80 degrees in February. The surf is 6 to 8 feet. And I said, I have found my paradise. And I've been here ever since.
Tom Sims brought the surf influence, I mean, and skating, but when I look back for what I do know of him, Sims was about the lifestyle, and that's, I think, what Tom brought to the sport was a culture.
Tom was always just pumped. He was always so much anxiety and just wanted to ride, and he always rode as hard as he could. And, I mean, it was really cool meeting him, and I mean, but for back then, I mean, almost nobody carved like him. He just had so much energy into his carving, and he rode with so much style, and was really influential, you know, to see what he was doing and know what his history was with skateboarding. And it was really cool to see how he was trying to push from the skateboard movement into the whole snowboard movement. I mean, it was some great times for sure.
Well, my family was all from LA, and so I was born in LA, but then when I was very young, we moved back east, and it was on one of our California trips to visit family in LA that I spotted skateboarding for the first time and immediately was entranced by it. This is one of the skateboards I built when I came to California. I've always been into longboards because it gave the feeling of surfing. I never really rode, you know, short skateboards or normal skateboards. So I was just street surfing, you know, down the hills of Montecito, and I would drag the tail. So this is some hard wood, and dragging the tail was like doing a bottom turn. So that's what led me to build, you know, the first snowboard, was not being able to skateboard on an icy street. And so after that, you know, it was just 12 months a year of boarding, whether it be skateboarding, snowboarding, or surfing. So this was the first snowboard I ever built, and it didn't work very good at all. There was no such thing as a snowboard at the time, so I was only 13 years old. Actually, I was only 12 when I built this. So it sat around for a couple of months. So when it snowed in early December and I tried it, not only did it feel too small, but the wood would stick to the snow even when I put wax on it. So the very next week I built one with an aluminum bottom and bigger, and that one sits in the Colorado Ski Museum at Vail, which, you know, is really the first snowboard. This one really didn't work.
We met through skateboarding, and I'd known him since the 70s because I used to hang around with photographers then, and so I would drag all the, you know, the skaters around to places, and I would take Ted Terrebonne and we'd go down to Southern California to the contest, and we started staying at Tom's house in Santa Barbara, and I got to be, you know, good friends with him. But he just, you know, we got to talking back then, and then he started bringing the skaters up to ride our little ramps up there, you know, in Tahoe. And then we got into the winter thing, and it just kind of progressed from there.
And so in the early 70s, when I started building skateboards commercially, it was the skateboarders out there that were hot that gravitated towards my way of thinking and what skateboarding was. So I had guys like Stevie Monahan and the surfing guys from Ventura on the team, and then I also had a lot of the Dogtown guys ended up on Sims after the Dogtown enterprise tanked, but because we were making at the time what were considered the best wheels and the best boards, so a lot of the very best riders gravitated towards Sim skateboards. Well, the Sim skateboards at one point was the world's biggest skateboard company. Well, Mike Chantry managed a skateboard park in Reno. So anybody managing a skateboard park would be buying Sim skateboards and Sim skateboard wheels. So then when he realized I was making, snowboards, he was right there and knew the skateboarders. So he knew Stevie Caballero and a lot of the hot skater guys. So he got them to come up and try snowboarding. And that had a lot of influence on guys like Terry KIDWELL, who looked up to Stevie Caballero and that whole scene.
We had a couple of quarter pipe ramps in Tahoe City, and he used to send skaters up. And then I found out about his snowboards, later on. We had the plastic boards, but I didn't know that he was doing the newer type boards. So he would start shipping boards to me. So that was how I knew he was coming up, because I'd get a dozen boards, or 10 boards, or 6 boards, or something like that in this big box. I'd come home from work, and there'd be this crate on the front porch, leaning against the wall from UPS. I'm like, oh, Tom must be coming. So I'd call him up, and I'm like, are you coming in? He goes, yeah, pick me up tonight. I go, well, thanks for giving me a heads up. We got to talk, and it just kind of fell in that I became the rep and team manager or team captain or whatever for that. Because Terry came on board, they were with they all rode winter sticks back then, and then as soon as Tom started passing boards out, they were instant Sims fans because they didn't break and snap like the winter sticks did, on a big air.
The whole team thing was a way for me to get input and feedback on ideas I had on product, and they were the ultimate testers because they were just so rough on equipment and were so demanding of it that it was a kind of a perfect marriage for R&D to just move it at a lightning pace.
Goddamn fucking piece of shit, man!
We have here, it's 1980, actually 81 was when this board was made. Notice the bindings. This is what we did to keep our heels in, but we could never figure it out, and it would always pop my heel out. What they did was cross-country ski heel pieces. We flipped them around, or the toe pieces, and we flipped them around, they became heel pieces for us. And you had to wear like Loa, the Loa mountaineering boots. This is what this binding was, because that's what I wore back then.
And so these are the bindings that revolutionized snowboarding. There was no such thing as a snowboard binding when we first came out with these. And even the modern day snowboard binding is basically just an improved version of what we have here. This is our board, the 1500 FE, which on eBay today, this can go for a couple $1,000s. These boards were just so far ahead of their time when we had them out, 83, 84 in that era. And as you can see, we got rid of I took off the rail fins on this board. And this board is all routed, waiting for its metal edges. I have very few boards left over with the hand assembled, metal edge, which we literally used old snow skis and unscrewed the metal edges and then mounted them on our snowboards. I did that for the team so they could ride better.
Really, we only knew of winter stick boards for the most part. We didn't know there was other companies out there. And Mike Chantry had connections with Tom through the skateboarding industry, and he brought Tom Sims up there, and I believe Stevie Caballero came up also. And Tom was riding the pipe with us, and I guess he just was really stoked at what we were doing, and he instantly gave us boards and pretty much sponsored us. At that time, there really was no reason to pay anybody. He was just giving out some free product, I guess, around the country to a few influential riders and hoping that would give him some extra sales, get his name out there. And that's kind of how me and Tom got our start. We met at the Tahoe City Quarter Pipe, and I guess the rest was history from there.